Alright, in this video I'm going to walk you through setting up a local PHP and web test server on a Linux machine. Now I don't actually have a physical Linux machine, so I've created a DigitalOcean droplet which I've logged in via SSH. It is running Ubuntu version 20.04. We're going to use this to simulate our Linux machine, and so that I can walk you through the process of setting up PHP, Apache, which is your web server, and all of those things on a Linux machine. Now I want to emphasize that this tutorial is designed simply for what you may do to set up a web server on your local machine only for testing purposes. This is not meant for a production environment. We're not going to look at many of the security risks and vulnerabilities because the configuration for your server in a production environment may vary greatly depending on your application. We merely want to get something set up on a local machine for testing purposes. Again, I am not using my local machine because I do not have a physical Linux machine set up. So I'm just using a DigitalOcean droplet to illustrate this, and in case you're wondering, I will be destroying this DigitalOcean droplet before I even release this video. But as we can see here, if we navigate to our IP address, the server simply refuses a connection. That's because we don't currently have any sort of web server running. Now if you're doing this on your local machine, then you can navigate to localhost 127.0.0.1. So we are currently logged in as root. I'm assuming that you probably are not logged in as root, and hopefully you are not logged in as root. So we'll prefix all of our commands with sudo, and the first thing that we'll type is sudo apt update, or sudo apt update. So this will update our repositories, and now we can do sudo apt install Apache 2. So we'll say yes, we want to continue, and then it will install Apache 2. Apache 2 is the web server which simply serves up the web pages. It does not by default include any ability to use PHP. So right now we're only installing the ability to serve up HTML, CSS, JavaScript, things like that. This process does take a few minutes. Alright, so the install of Apache 2 has completed. So the next step is we're going to set up our firewall quickly just to make sure that we allow connections in and out. So we'll do sudo ufw app list to show us which applications are available, and then we're going to do sudo ufw allow in Apache full. This is going to allow our HTTP and HTTPS connections via Apache. Now if we go to our page, we can see here that now it is working. Apache 2 Ubuntu default page, it works, it has been set up. Now we need to configure it a little bit farther. We don't have PHP installed yet, so that will be our next task. Before we install PHP, we're going to install our MySQL server, so we'll do sudo apt install and then MySQL-server. And yes, we want to continue, and then this will install the MySQL server. This also takes a few minutes to complete, so we're going to skip ahead to the end. And we've skipped ahead. MySQL server has finished installing. We're just going to run a command. We're going to do sudo MySQL_secure_ installation. This will walk us through just helping to secure this installation of MySQL a bit. I'm not going to really go through this with too much thought because again, this is just a local test server. And our next step is installing PHP, or installing the PHP module as an add-on to our Apache server. So we're going to type sudo apt install php space lib apache 2 -mod -php, and then another space and php -mysql. This means that we're telling it to install 3 different packages. The first package is just PHP in and of itself. The second package is the module that attaches to Apache 2 so that we can run PHP as part of our Apache 2 web server installation. And the third package is a PHP MySQL binding, which allows us to connect to the MySQL server from PHP, and that's the reason why we installed the MySQL server first, so that we can also install the ability for PHP to connect to MySQL at the same time as installing PHP. We already have our Apache server running, but because we just installed PHP and the PHP module for Apache 2, we're going to want to restart our Apache server so that all the new configuration can kick in and take place. To do this, we're just going to type sudo systemctl restart Apache 2. And once that finishes, it has been restarted. We can go here to make sure that our web server still works. Of course, this doesn't tell us anything about PHP working, but it does tell us that our web server configuration worked fine. We're going to change directories to our var www folder, and then we're going to ls that to see that it only contains a folder called HTML. So we'll cd into our HTML folder, and if we look at the contents of that, we see that it contains one file, index.html. We're going to create a new file. I'm going to use nano as my editor, but you can use any other editor that you'd like. So we'll just type nano index.php, and we'll do a little hello world, and then we'll open up PHP and we'll call the PHP info function. This should show that PHP is working. We'll save it and close it. We're also going to remove our index.html file with an rm command, so be careful with rm because that deletes your stuff. And now we can ls and see that our directory only contains index.php. If we go back to our server, we'll refresh, and it now says hello world with our PHP info. And we now have a running PHP and web server installed on Linux. So I hope that this has been helpful. Again, as a reminder, this tutorial is only designed to help you set up a local test server within a local environment, either on the same machine that you're using to develop or on another machine on your local network. This is not intended for production environment or for anything that is accessible to the outside world. So if it is for production use, I definitely recommend taking the necessary precautions to secure your server and do your research to make sure that you use the appropriate configuration. This is merely for a local test server to help you just get something up and running quick and easy in order to test out the scripts that you are writing. If you found this helpful, please feel free to hit the like button, and please help me out by subscribing and sharing this video. Thanks.